All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for coming, everyone. Let's see. Pam, can you please do the roll call for us?
Mayor Martin?
Here.
Trustee Colonna?
Here.
Trustee Mercurio?
Here.
Trustee Machado?
Here.
Trustee Hughes? Absent.
Okay, and we have our meeting minutes in the binder. Is this February 18th or the 25th?
Yes, it was the day after the holiday, Tuesday.
Okay, so oh, is this the day you typed them?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you have a copy of the minutes in your binder. Just take a look, see if there's anything that needs to be added or corrected. Okay, so I will entertain a resolution to, or a motion to accept the minutes as sent.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And under abstracts, let's see, under general fund, we have $106,167.09. Sewer abstract is $21,210.09. And water abstract is $5,053.20. Is there a motion to accept the abstracts as read?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. I'll pass them down to Nick for his signature. And we have a presentation tonight, so I would like to move up on the agenda, if it's okay with everybody. Glenn, our police commissioner, has a person he would like to appoint to the Village of Fishkill Police Department. So, just so I'm sure they'd like to see the presentation, but you know, they could watch it online, maybe.
Thank you for giving up your spot. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, board members. As you're aware, you know, unfortunately, at times we face vacancies within the police department for various reasons. People move away or
Glenn,
get out of the business.
Glenn, can you come up, please?
Oh,
'Cause-
absolutely.
yeah, thank you.
So, as you're aware, we've had vacancies within the police department. I think we're down to 2. So if we can have Mr. DeMarco appointed tonight, we'll be down to 1. Carl DeMarco is a longtime decorated police officer. He began his career with the city of Newburgh Police Department, a very busy agency. He worked there for 5 years before he transferred over to the city of Peekskill Police Department, again, another busy agency. But he had a very distinguished career, both in patrol and in investigations. And upon his retirement from full-time law enforcement, he transitioned to the town of Fishkill Police Department, where he worked for the last 6 years. We're very fortunate that he has the time and interest in working with the Village of Fishkill. Obviously, he is a Fishkill resident, and he's very community oriented. And you're aware that I'm very focused on having officers walk the beat, cross the kids, interact with the business community and the residents as much as possible. And I think Carl DeMarco would be an excellent addition to the agency. So I would highly recommend his appointment. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer that. Otherwise, please appoint Carl DeMarco to the police department.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Glenn?
No, just that I'm highly supportive of this. So Carl and I worked together, and actually I appointed him to detective. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Carl. So, but no, so he worked for me in Peekskill. I can't say enough good things about what he did down there and just his professionalism. And I wouldn't have appointed him if I didn't think he could do the job.
And if I can, I'd highly recommend that Carl be appointed. I think he'd be a great addition to this village.
Great, so any more discussion? Okay, is there a motion to appoint Carl DeMarco?
So moved?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Carl. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Don't know this guy.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Thank you.
Now, Mayor, I know that Officer DeMarco would love to stay for the rest of the meeting. He has another engagement he has to get to for another meeting, and I'm gonna leave at that note also.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and again, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, that being said, we'll go back to the first item on the agenda, and that is the Beacon Hopewell Rail Trail.
It's just a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much, the Village of Fishkill. My name is Tom Baird. I'm with the engineering company Martin Inland Judas. Dutchess County Planning Department had retained us to do a study for the Beacon Hopewell Trail, which is about 13-mile corridor. So some of the things we're working on, we're preparing a feasibility study. And we wanted to meet with the local municipalities on a one-on-one basis before our public information meeting in about 3 weeks. Try to give you an idea of what we're doing and see if you have any specific questions pertaining to the village, and we can try to get some input on a more close in-person basis. So today, we're just going to go over some of the study goals, the progress to date, some of the public outreach that we've done, existing conditions, and we have a broad view of the entire corridor, and then we have some that are pertinent just to the Village of Fishkill, and some of the next steps, and then at the end have some kind of open discussion. So there's an advisory committee for this project with Region 8 DOT, Dutchess County Public Works, of course, and City, Town of East Fishkill, Village of Fishkill, Town of Fishkill. Scenic Hudson is also involved with this too. So we have this kind of a core group that we have stakeholders meetings and talk about different issues and things to address. And remind you, this is a feasibility study. Its goal is to determine that, yes, this can be built and what some of the challenges will be. And so we know ahead of time. It also is a mechanism that significantly helped get funding for the project. A lot of times funding sources will say, hey, we can fund this, but can you really build it or not? So what this does is it shows that you can, and this project can be built from what we found so far. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So some of the study goals are to evaluate the full 13-mile corridor, look at existing conditions, drainage, crossings, environmental impacts, if any, all of the bridges, the crossings and that. Right now, we're in the draft design concepts phase where we're looking at ways to get across each of the intersections. We have minor crossings, commercial driveways, very narrow driveways, and we have Route 9. And you're all familiar with Route 9. And looking at amenities, challenges, and we'd like to get input from the municipalities. What would your constituents really like to see on the trail? So we have done a survey. This shows the corridor starting pretty much near the Beacon train station and ending up at Hopewell Junction, connecting with the Empire State Trail through that 13-mile corridor. So with that, last February, Metro North was able to officially abandon the railroad. What that means is that they had to go through the federal process, the Surface Transportation Board, to be able to say, yes, this is not going to be a railroad anymore in our minds. That allows the railroad to be repurposed into a trail, but it is a federal decision. You may have heard some property impacts that had happened in the past, and there's a federal process right now with property owners that back up to the railroad. That has nothing to do with this project. That is something that will follow through on a federal level, but it's independent, and this project does not depend on those lawsuits and those property acquisitions falling through, or going through, actually. So we completed our field work last year, and that involved walking the entire corridor, taking notes and photographs and documenting everything. Our experience around the area for trails has been over 30 years and designed many of them that that we've done before. And, pointing out some of the things that have been challenging in construction too is also part of this feasibility study. So identifying those. Our public outreach was worked out pretty well. We have a website. Many of you have been on it. We had online surveys. We had pop-up events in East Fishkill and Beacon last year. It worked out very well. Got a lot of comments. We had little business cards. People went in on the survey. And this is what the page looks like for the website. We had 1,350 responses to the survey, and 95% supported the trail. Neighborhoods, ensuring accessibility, making it safe and secure. Some of the key amenities, restrooms, benches, waste receptacles were things that you typically find in surveys like that. And the key uses for biking, walking, but also connection to the other trails in the system. There's the Fjord Trail that's coming up from the Cold Spring area that's going to connect down in the Beacon section, very close to the train station. So that'll connect that whole system up. And then we connect to the Empire State Trail. And just keeps going on and on from there, and the Duchess Trail, of course. So there were a lot of commenters in the Village of Fishkill area here. Had a lot of comments. So this is kind of what's a heat map. I imagine it might be some of you guys sitting here today, but bathrooms were number one. So of what people look for, and this is all going to be in the study and also part of the larger public info meeting in a couple of weeks as well. So I don't want to spend too much time here, but you can see there's lots of different amenities that people have been looking for. So part of our progress to date is a traffic assessment with 7 different intersections, utility coordination too, Central Hudson Gas and Electric. We have met with them, had very good meetings with them. We also met with Montfort about 6 weeks ago at the plant. We had a nice meeting there, and they're very willing to cooperate and make this work. Con Edison, that's been a little more difficult to coordinate and get them to commit to a date to meet. I don't know if anybody from Con Edison here. So we're still at that point, but that doesn't really affect the project itself. We're just trying to coordinate with everybody that's available. But a little bit on existing conditions. We have a report that was circulated back in October 2024. It's posted on the website. And as a summary, the corridor is in generally good condition with manageable challenges. That's a good term we like to use. And a lot of opportunities for connectivity. So that part of it, I'm sure will be an evolving process. If all of these locations are not identified in this feasibility study, it does not mean at all that it won't be in the future when the actual preliminary design contract for design of the project actually comes out. Well, this process kind of will start over again. And it could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 5 years before there's funding for portions of this project. So that itself will have its own public informational and public involvement process in itself for the design of the project. But right now we're trying to get all of that together and get ahead of it so we know what to expect when the design comes as well. The rail, 2 concepts. In the beginning, Metro North required the study to include a rail with trail option. So in other words, keeping the rail intact and building a trail next to it. That was initially something we had to look at. We're continuing to look at that too. It does have a lot of challenges. When you have a rail and trail next to each other, you've got to have a separation. It's generally 20 feet. Project we just designed in Peekskill, the Metro North required 22 feet. It's down by the station, right across from the body shop over in that area.
Along the waterfront?
Along the waterfront, right. Right. So
that's the width, sorry. I didn't.
That's with rail with trail. Also, the bridges all have some level of deterioration, but they also cannot accommodate trains and a trail. So new bridges would have to be built. The rail to trail option repurposes the existing bridges and just puts new surfaces on them, and you're able to use them together. So the cost difference is really significant. And that'll be very, very much at the end of the feasibility study. We'll have some cost comparisons of the 2 of those as well.
Who makes the final decision on that? Is that the federal government or the MTA?
We don't know that yet. There won't be a decision made as a result of this study.
Okay.
But that will be vetted out in the design process when funding is obtained. So down the road, that's gonna be a decision. Right now, like I said, we're just showing that how difficult it would be one way or the other, what the differences are, so. All right, so, Chris Hannett is, an engineer with our firm. He's the project manager for this, and he's gonna pick up where some of the existing, conditions are and go over that.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Yes, as you mentioned, my name's Chris, project manager for this, and take you through some of the specifics of the existing railroad corridor now. So overall, this is for the entire 13 miles of the corridor. The ballast, the stone that's out there now, over 75% of that ballast is in good or excellent condition right now. So if we were to progress or, in the future with that rail to trail conversion, a lot of that ballast could be reused, and that's a huge cost savings right there. Right off the bat, when you remove the railroad tracks and reuse that existing stone out there. We did a quick assessment of the drainage facilities that are out there now, bridges, access points, and all the utilities, and they're just a quick inventory of what's out there now and any major challenges that are that would be encountered if this were converted into a trail. We also looked at the natural resources out there, environmental concerns, vegetation, trees. Again, the corridor is in very good shape, so there's not too much tree growth or vegetation growth within or right immediately adjacent to the railroad tracks. Several streams and wetlands that the railroad corridor right now passes through. Floodplains, a lot of the corridor runs through the floodplain of the Fishkill Creek. And cultural resources were near historic areas and parks, so that of course would have to be vetted as well. And endangered threatened species, Indiana bat, bog turtle, monarch butterfly, among others that could be found. So right now, take you through a quick walk through the corridor, beginning on the western side of the village. Technically, this is still owned by the MTA, the property and everything. So not saying that anybody should go out there and walk this right now, because that would technically be trespassing. So we had to get permits and everything to go out there. And that took a little bit of time too. So and training, we're electrical certified now, right?
Yes.
So, yes.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
yes, so we know not to step on that third rail if we ever see it.
There's no third rail.
Right.
No, there's no third rail, so you won't get electrocuted hopefully if you go out there. Anyway, so as you can see on the left side there, backside of neighborhood there, near Kip Ave. And again, railroad corridor just in very good shape through a lot of that. So it's almost pretty easy to imagine a trail going through there. This is just east of the Sarah Taylor Park, or within it really, east of Route 9 crossing there, a small little rock cut right near the driveway crossing there, and then a little further down, close to the village limits there, just very straight, open area with the railroad tracks. So just some of the culverts that are seen. So on the left there is a large stone culvert. That's probably about 5 by 5 opening there on that box culvert there. That's just about a quarter mile east of Route 9. And then I actually didn't find any small culverts out there, but this just shows an opening to a small culvert that was found somewhere else on the railroad corridor in the village. Yeah. There was one major washout that we did find right near the Sarah Taylor Park there. This one right within the village, but this is a relatively routine repair. It would require a new large box culvert probably to be installed there, and to handle the drainage that's decided to make its way through there. And of course, some stone fill and everything to be placed around that to fill it in. And permitting to go along with that as well, to repair that. Within the village, there are no bridge structures, but I figured we include these slides here just to give you an idea of what is outside the corridor. So these were bridges number 3 and 4. There were 6 in total within the 13-mile corridor. So both of these are going over the Fishkill Creek, right near yep, exactly. Right near Glenham there, yeah. So about 100 foot long, each of them. one on the left there is a large concrete arch bridge, and the other one there, just a simple girder bridge. And then, just at the town border, between town of Fishkill and East Fishkill, another bridge there is the two-span bridge. And then there are three overpasses going over the railroad corridor right now as well. The one on the right there is I-84 going over. So those were not constraining the project in any way either, the overpasses. So this just gives you a little quick diagram of what a rehab of the girder, the bridges would look like. So bridge on the left there, you take off the railroad ties and the steel rails and everything there. You're left with the two parallel girders running along there, and put a deck on top of it, concrete or timber, and then railings on top of that. Through the design process, they would have to be load rated, just to make sure that they could carry loads, ideally of emergency vehicles, to make sure that if there was anything, and maintenance as well, just to make sure that they could get from one point to the other in a timely manner. So, and we've actually done a little bit of that investigations now. We were able to obtain some load ratings that MTA had done on the bridges throughout, and they rated them for railroad loading, but you know, they weren't quite meeting the standards for railroad loading, but that still far exceeds what wouldn't be needed for, you know, smaller, well, especially humans, but even some of the lighter, you know, emergency vehicles and everything should be fine. But again, that would be construction vehicles too, yeah. But again, that would be further vetted during a design phase. So here's a map here of the roadway crossings that are within the village limits. So most of them are very minor roadway crossings, mostly driveways really, except for the one biggest obvious one, US Route 9 there, which is 6 lanes of traffic. And, you know, we were sitting in that intersection earlier today looking at that and just looking at hundreds of cars driving by, and they're like, yeah, I don't know about this. So, but sticking with the smaller ones for right now. Old Main Street there, which would be the driveway to Sarah Taylor Park. Potential options for getting across that from the perspective of trail would be installing signage and striping there that you typically see at most roadway crossings. Relatively low volume, but it's mostly just to make sure that any drivers are aware that there could be a crossing there. So this one here is driveway right at the end of Jackson Street there. We're aware, and that's right near the bigger Montfort site there. This one, I believe, is owned by LMD Materials.
Yes.
So they drive across this driveway here. And so there would be truck traffic through there, but we're going to be in the process of figuring out what the type of volumes that they're going to be seeing through that crossing right there. So we got to look into that a little bit more, but right now I imagine signing and striping is another potential option for that. If truck traffic is infrequent enough. So again, talking about that major road crossing, daily traffic through there is about 38,000 vehicles, posted speed limit of 40 miles an hour. Crossing length across there is 140 feet from side to side. Luckily, there is a median in there. So if you were to include a surface crossing, you'd only have to cross 3 lanes of traffic at once. So that's, well, yeah, people driving 50, 55, 60, whatever they drive out there. And so we cut that in half. That's less than 20,000 cars a day. That's fine. That should be fine. So obviously safety is a major concern for this crossing. We've looked at multiple options for crossing this already, and we did submit a traffic memo to DOT already to get a little bit of their input, and didn't have too much to say about that, but they did recommend crossing with the bridge, somehow grade separation of that crossing. So again, we did look at multiple options, so 4 in total. We looked at bringing the trail up to crossing at Elm Street in one way or another. We looked at crossing at the rail location, of course, that surface location there, a bridge over Route 9, or an underpass down under, potentially under like the Fishkill Creek, or even going under Route 9 in another location. But we are aware of major flooding in this area, so I see you're shaking your head there, yeah, so, just doing our due diligence, make sure that we look at all our options, so. There you go. So one of the crossing options we looked at, if it was at grade at the existing railroad crossing location now, would be a hawk signal. These are not too common yet, but they are gaining some popularity and traction within New York State DOT. So you can see the sequence of flashing on the right there. So this is pedestrian activated. So somebody would push the button and it would start the sequence here. It would turn yellow there, indicating that, if you're coming through the intersection, you should slow down. And then it would turn red, double red, indicating that any drivers there would have to stop. So there's just another pedestrian signal option that you can have that's without just the full red, yellow, green traffic light. But again, just an option here that was investigated, will be included in the feasibility study there, and a cost assigned to it as well. So, but again, preferred option really is a bridge overhead. Different alignments of the trail may dictate a different type of bridge being installed. We've looked at having a circular ramp that goes up to the bridge, because obviously you're going to have to be roughly 20 feet in the air there to provide clearance for trucks and everything going under Route 9 as well. So to get that increase in elevation and maintain ADA compliance, I think it's 500 feet or so roughly, Tom, or what was it? Yeah, 500 feet or so that the ramp would have to be in order to make that increase in elevation. So we get to that. So, bridge option there. We also looked at the Montfort site. As Tom mentioned earlier, we had a discussion with them in a meeting. Looked at a couple different options to go through the site, go around the site. If we're going through the site, that could include a bridge through the site, because they do have a lot of trucks crossing more towards the right, towards their site there, where there's that kind of dark gray line. There's a driveway, and that's constantly used by loaders and delivery trucks and everything throughout the day. So continuing through at grade through that site is really not an option. But we looked at potentially making it on road through there, but again, there's a lot of truck traffic through there as well. We also talked with Montfort about potentially using the outside of their property there and, completely diverting any traffic from that rail line area and diverting around the outside of their property. So, and then again, as you can see, it's very industrial inside and very heavily used by large construction vehicles. And then again, that LMD site, we're going to look into that a little bit more, but there seems to be some kind of material storage and processing that goes on in the back there. So, and it has a driveway with, again, assumed quite a few truck traffic in and out through there as well. And so again, one of the reasons why that underpass may not succeed is this floodplain area. So everything that is dark blue towards the creek down there is within the floodway. So you can see half of the Montfort storage area there is within the floodway. So that means that that's like where active channel water would actively be flowing through there during floods and everything. And then outside of that is the 1% flood risk or 100-year storm, and then 500-year storm just on the fringes there in green. But obviously a very large area of this project.
We were very hopeful that, and I had brought up in a few of the meetings that I was in regarding that, that there may be some things we could do through engineering during the process of this project that would kind of help us mitigate the flooding that we've had down on Elm Street in that area. So.
Yeah, and that could be something those concerns could certainly be included in this feasibility study now, that, you have major concerns about flooding through there. And when we visited the Montfort site, they showed us where some of the flooding was in their building and everything.
Yeah.
They were telling us it was right up to the counter at the their main showroom there and everything,
Right.
which is incredible considering this, considering the creek is so far away from there at that point, really.
Well, we
So,
didn't have these problems, I don't think, before, Walmart was there, so. But if we
Just south of
could
the
do
creek.
something
Yeah.
to help that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, anything that we can do, we'll look into that for sure, so. We also investigated, well, through our field, site visits and everything, we noticed, we documented any utilities that were in the area, so, Central Hudson Gas, does have transmission and distribution lines, crossing and running parallel to the railroad corridor as well. So in meetings with them, they would want to just make sure that they would maintain access to any utilities that they do have that are out there. We also found various other utilities out there as well. There's some gas that's out there, water line crossings, sewer run that runs parallel to it for a while. And there's also some communication lines out there that are buried, within the, railroad ballast as well. So, just things to note for now, and that would have to be considered, during design. Potential access locations for the, railroad corridor. This would be like getting neighborhoods onto the railroad corridor and making street connections or other types of connections there where, you know, at the end of the day, you could go ride your bike or something out on the corridor, or ride down, you know, from the village of Fishkill there down to the city of Beacon or something, you know, on a Saturday for dinner and then ride back up. So just finding easy access locations is a priority of this study, I would say. So, couple that were identified right now are really just at minor road crossings that are within the corridor. And so we have those listed up there, in the upper left there. And of course, in the Sarah Taylor Park would be a great, trailhead for this, trail as well, for people that, you know, are not able to ride their bike to the trail. They could drive down there, unpack their bike and then go ride wherever. So, this is just a list right now. If there were any other ideas, you know, that, you guys have, we'd, you know, be happy to hear them and include them, in the study. So next steps, for this study, presentations to other municipalities. So we have one right after this, in the city of Beacon. We've already done, town of Fishkill. That was a couple weeks ago. And then next week, I believe, town of East Fishkill. So doing all 4 municipalities that the trail crosses through. We also have a virtual public meeting, March 20th at noon, which would be similar to this, but we'll just get into more depth, on the rest of the corridor, as well. And, looking to include some interactive polls and everything in that, presentation as well. So, you can register anyone here that's, wants to attend that. You can go to the Rail Trail website there, beaconhopewellrailtrail.com, and there's a link and registration sign up for that, meeting. So, draft report, we're hoping to get that out, spring 2025 here. And once that's, reviewed internally and passed through, we'll post that on the website. And then public meeting number 2, that'll be held, late spring of, 2025 as well. And hopefully get a final report, recommendations and estimate, for summer 2025. So that's this summer.
Yeah. It is.
Jeez, where'd time go?
I don't know.
So I guess right now we'll, open up questions and comments. Again, staff right there for the Dutchess County Transportation Council. That's not me, but we do have Tara in, attendance, from the DCTC staff, and, yeah, so
Thank you.
any questions?
Does anybody? Yes.
I have two, my name's Steve, I'm representing the Fishkill Historical Society. And I have 2 questions. One is that, why would they be considering a rail with a trail? It seems to me that that's gonna be so much more expensive than stuff to do.
Yeah, it is. It's really just to take a very high level look at what it would take
Well, I
to
think
do that.
maybe
So
the reason for it was that the Metro North wanted to keep that line open for some reason.
if they wanted to keep that open, yes, that would be an alternative, the rail with trail option. And
At the time the study started, it was still a rail line that was considered active federally.
Okay.
Yep.
So we started to investigate it
All right.
and, we're gonna keep and just include it because the question comes up, why not rail with trail? There's the answer. So right there in the study. So we're following through
I
with
think
it.
it's
Yep.
too expensive.
Yeah.
They pay for
And,
it?
I'll just, yeah, before you second, I'll,
Metro pay for it, they're looking to keep.
Yeah, they would have to pay for the rail repairs, yes.
yeah,
No, I mean, when you're saying it's so much more expensive to keep the rail, so then Metro North would be assuming that financial responsibility.
Most likely, yes. And what we've seen in the past, yes.
Metro North though has officially abandoned the railroad corridor, right now, but they still own the property and everything that's on there now, but, it was rail banked as well, so that means that, potentially railroad could get put back there in the future if it was needed, but I think stats are, it's only happened like twice or something within the US, in the
5 or 6
50
miles.
50 years that's been going
I
on,
was
so.
thinking there's a long section of wetlands that you
Mhm.
gotta have the trail with it, you gotta build that
Oh,
all
yeah.
up, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, the environmental impacts, the cost would all be extraordinary.
And my second question was, you mentioned something about Con Edison.
Yep.
Why Con Edison? What do they have up here? If this is Central Hudson territory,
Yep,
is there something with
So-
Con Ed?
not right in here. There's a substation that's east of here, in the town of East Fishkill, I believe. And so I believe Con Edison's lines run up to that
Okay.
substation. So there is an overhead crossing and then
They're
I
involved in
believe
one
it's
spot.
right.
Solar fields that are out there.
Yeah,
too.
solar fields maybe as well. So, but that's actually part of our future conversation with them is what exactly is theirs. And Con Ed believed that was NICEAG, or no, the other one. Central Hudson believed it was theirs, so yes.
Chris and Tom, I haven't seen you guys since timeout.
Oh,
Yeah, how
boy.
you doing?
So you mentioned abandoned, you mentioned rail bank. Which one is it? Because it has to be one.
It's
or
rail
the other.
bank, rail bank.
It is rail bank. Okay, so it's important to let the public know the difference between those two. If it is federally abandoned through the STB, Surface Transportation Board, it can never go back to rail. If it is rail banked, which this one is, Metro North can at any time. They don't care if $1 has been spent yet, or if $25 million has been spent yet. If they want their railroad back, railroad law supersedes every other law. So that's important to know.
Another thing too is, with the rail only, the existing ballast would be maintained as much as possible.
Yes.
The stone that, we would incorporate here, whether it's an asphalt surface or a stone surface, would integrate with that ballast and you'd be able to build the railroad right back on it if you had to.
Mhm.
So we're not gonna take away
Right.
the main foundation of the railroad. That's part of minimizing the input and export of materials off the site. You get to some environmental situations with linear projects when you start hauling materials out and hauling them back in, that's on everybody's streets. That's more materials, that's more carbon footprint, all of that. So we integrate the ballast that's there and most of it's in good condition.
Most of it's in great shape, yes.
So if an emergency, national security, something came up where railroad had to go back in, they could do it quickly. And that's how these trails are usually designed. Yes.
So, given that information, will you be requesting for it to be officially abandoned before working on the trail? Or is that just kind of the risk that's gonna be taken?
Not likely, because part of the abandonment of rail use was to rail bank it. Part of the agreement on the federal level through that Surface Transportation Board comes right out of Washington. So they said it's rarely happened. Most every trail project that I've done over 30 years, it's been rail banked. None of them have gone back. And there's only a few miles in the whole country that it's ever gone back. But yes, it could happen.
Yep.
Yes, it could happen.
I think even though my number is, I think I've heard as many as 10, it's still low.
Right, right.
Yeah,
You guys said 3 or 4,
yeah.
it is very low. It rarely happens.
Yeah.
But it could. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Well, there's a question here in the green.
My name is Esther Jackson. I live in the village of Fishkill. I just want to say that I'm so excited about this project. My whole family is excited. My husband, if you heard me say this already, he saw the email of all of the places you're going to be talking and he put them all into our calendar. It was like, they have to like so excited about it. But we live in Fishkill. We go to Beacon pretty regularly. My daughter's school is there. Having an option for travel that's on the road would be incredible. And then to bring people from Beacon out here to go to our awesome businesses and for us to get out to East Fishkill, I just think that would be fantastic. So I just want to say strongly support the project as a resident.
Thank you. Great.
Thank
you.
On your maps there, I didn't see any place from Beacon to Hopewell where there was any designated areas for people to park their cars to get on the trail.
From Beacon to Hopewell.
I haven't, on the map you showed me, I didn't see any of them.
Correct. So we just focus this presentation right now just on the village and what's here right now. So overall, we do have areas in between those other areas, you know, what you mentioned there, where there would be people, places for parking cars and everything.
Would there
So
be any in the
there's a
village
Van
of
Pelt, one of them is a Van Pelt Park. I believe that's
In the town.
town Fishkill, and then in East Fishkill, there's the Doug Phillips Park. That might be it.
That's the town.
Yeah, so Hopewell, of course, has a great parking area, trailhead there for the Duchess Rail Trail and everything. That would be where this next week.
You're saying Doug Phillips Park in the town you would use?
Possibly, sure. And Sarah Taylor Park would be a trailhead.
Yeah, because Doug Phillips Park, you'd have to cross 52 and walk quite a bit to get to the rail trail.
Well, Pass is right by there.
It's right past the entrance of it, yeah. But again, this is just a study of feasibility. The exact locations, how many parking spaces, and that will need to be determined during the preliminary design when funding becomes available for the project. So we're identifying where, yes, it would work there, but the details of it are not finalized yet and until we get to that phase. And this is a mechanism to help get funding for that as well, the study.
And you said that if the railroad wanted it back, they could, and you're saying that you're building bridges and you're gonna have to bridges over the land while in that area right there. Are they gonna be the same standards that are gonna hold the weight of freight trains and stuff that if they wanted it back?
No,
They're gonna have to rebuild those bridges.
they would have to rebuild those bridges, and that's part of the reason why the corridor is abandoned. But rail bank.
Why they went through that process. Yeah, so they've already spent a lot of time and energy going through this process. There is basically say that they have no intent on using this corridor for railroad. Because they know that it was gonna cost them right now, it's gonna cost them a lot of money in investment and everything to get this back up and running for railroad purposes with the condition of the bridges are in right now. But since, you know, truck loading and pedestrian loading is much less than railroad loading, the bridges are still in fine shape, most of them anyway, for uses for this, but a lot of them would have to be heavily rehabbed or rebuilt probably for railroad use at this point.
And what would it, I mean, what benefit would it be to bring it back to a rail? Right, I mean, there's not.
Yeah, MTA doesn't see any reason to do that
Right.
at this point.
Same for freight.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
The rail is elevated, sometimes 10 to 15 feet higher than some of these homes that put up to it. What are you guys gonna do for privacy for those folks that live right on the rail? I'm actually for it, but I live on the rail. So I've been here since there was a 6 o'clock train. And
Okay.
so I'm wondering, that's the only thing is I have small kids. I'm not planning to move. And I have veterans, one's got no legs, so he can't come here. I'm just wondering, what are we gonna do for those folks? There's only like 75 properties, but that's like a real concern. I want the rail, because it'd be awesome to be able to try, take a bike and go all the way down to Beacon and all the way up, and once the forge is done, go all the way down to Cold Spring. But that's the only main concern, is the folks that have been living here.
Yeah, during the design of the project itself, each of those individual properties will be looked at and decided upon and move forward with any kind of screening if that's gonna happen, would be
We're
done.
looking for like more nature stuff instead of a 50
Preferably,
foot,
preferably.
black thing.
Right.
Right behind my house or right behind the neighbor's house.
So we've done multiple things on other projects. Sometimes it's a railroad box wire fence with some arborvitaes or any kind of other small trees. We've sometimes changed the elevation of the trail, so this sight lines off is different, so you can't see. There's lots of ways to also prevent privacy in the design of the drainage, make it difficult for someone to go off the trail to your property. There's lots of combinations of things, but each one will be looked at individually during the design process. So we're not at that level of detail for that, but your concern is noted in every meeting if somebody makes a comment about it. So,
The other concern is security.
right. That
This
falls
is,
along with
once that
security.
trail's built, that goes to Cold Spring. They already get, who's been on Route 9? Who's been on 9D? Who's been to Mount Beacon?
Yep.
All right, it's a disaster during the
It's
spring and
huge.
summer.
It's crowded. Very, very
Exactly,
crowded.
and I used to live on Mount Beacon right at the bottom.
Mhm.
It went from,
You don't remember the trolley that went?
oh, no, I'm not done with that.
Hey, I wasn't judging. You could be on. All I know.
Nobody in this room remembers that.
But they have concerns with the park.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Hold up a second.
I'll admit to anything.
I may or may not have ridden the trolley.
But that's a main concern is the parking and is our way of life gonna change? Because once that trail is built, I seen it, Hudson, that's beautiful down there. We all love breaking. And I remember as a kid going up there being the only person there now. But they're expecting 1 to 2 million people per year to visit that area once it's built. So what are we gonna get 20% going and taking that, which is cool. I'm not against it again. I'm just, that's a lot of people.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a concern. It's something that's a big section of the preliminary design phase and the detailed design phase down the road, if the project gets funded, to deal with each one of those properties, and things may change. It could be 7 years, 6 years sometimes before the trail is even could be built. in some of these
Well, I'm
areas.
hoping it gets built, because my kids will be 18,
Yeah.
and what's the point?
Support like this makes it,
You know.
hopefully makes it faster. So the more support we get, the more push there is, there's more connections and kind of a momentum behind it is a big factor in getting these built.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
If I can answer the question, why keep the rails in? Is because there's a potential of anywhere between 500 and 700 direct and indirect jobs and between $3 to $6 million in additional tax revenue to the community. That's the reason why there are different alternatives. There are rail bikes, there are small tourist railroads and so on and so forth that you can do to tie it. So if you have the rail and the trail together, because there are studies that were done up in the Adirondacks and even the city of Kingston is one of the examples where they didn't pull out that last section of track because it brought in several $1 million worth of tax revenue just on that short section. So that's the reason why you keep the rails in, because to put the rails back in at today's cost is approximately $1.2 to $1.4 million per mile.
Yeah.
To restore the rail and to put the rails back in and the ties and so on and so forth. So this is a very historic line, and it goes back to history from the mid 1800s all the way up until the 1990s when Conrail stopped using it when they sold the secondary lines in Housatonic. So, I mean, it would be a shame to take the rails out at this point because of just the benefits of it. And as you know, that everybody, I know some of my more progressive neighbors are concerned about climate change. Here is a vehicle to be able to reduce our carbon footprint, be able to have people come between the communities and still take advantage of it. So there's that's why you keep the rails in.
So our study will talk about these two options and will not come to a conclusion of either way, just going to put the facts down, the engineering behind the two options, and that's how the study ends. And then progresses forward for actual implementation at some later date when funding becomes available. So that's really the gist here is to really determine what we can do with this corridor. I appreciate the comments, and we did the Ashokan Rail Trail, Chris and I. And we had a lot of back and forth with rail trail through there. And some of the more northwestern sections, they have the rail cars there around Phoenicia. We're also working on the Shandaken Trail in High Mount right now as well. That's in final design. So, you know, that's another one there that is not possible for rail with trail through there because of the geometry and the terrain. So we're.
Have you done any studies as far as from Hopewell to I think the next stop along the going toward Brewster? I mean, I know usually has anyone ever done a study of how many people are actually going into the more rural, not being around Hopewell, but further down, you use the line because you have that separation that goes all the way to Brewster. I mean, I don't think the counts are very large, are they?
I'm not aware of those, but if you want, we can find out. Could you submit a comment on that? We could find that out. We just don't have their information at our fingertips right now. A little outside of this corridor.
So I happen to work for the railroad you referenced, and we were voted the best tourist attraction in Ulster County in 2023. So there is 100% merit to that statement. And along the lines of Metro North, MTA now having jurisdiction over this line that we're talking about here, doesn't mean that 6 months, a year from now, 10 years from now, 8.5 years from now, another railroad might have or show some interest in that and desire to buy it, and it could indeed go back to rail. So, you know, not to harp on that because it has only happened between 3 and 10 times. We'll agree on that. We'll go with that.
I'll give you 10.
You know, that's a real low percentage when you look at the miles of rail trails that have been built. But again, I guess I'm the thorn in the side to say it could happen. So it's important to always remember.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And I just want to say, you know, I've attended a lot of these meetings and it really is just so interesting. And the work that you're doing is really, really wonderful. And I'm really excited about this project. And I want to thank all the people that did take the time to do the survey. We put it out on Facebook and then you know, we tried to really get it out to the public. So I guess it worked and I'm glad to hear that we got a good response. So
We're 10 years out for this to finish? Just roughly, what do you think?
Well, let's see. Finished, yeah, I'd say 10 years is not a bad number. I won't comment on when it first gets started.
Fair enough. Right. I didn't say from today, when it starts. I'd be with you, yeah. Yeah, of course.
no, you've been doing wonderful work.
Yeah,
for us.
thank you guys.
We
This is great.
appreciate it.
We're all on board. with
And
this.
we know that we're kind of the hardest, the village, because we have that big hump you got to get over, but we think it's going to be wonderful. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
One of the circular bridge option is always there because that's outside of the floodway.
Right.
So I'm not familiar with the floodway, you can't even put a drink or marble in the floodway.
Right.
It's against the law.
Yeah.
The floodplain, you can put up to, they're usually like 6 inches, like you can go to a foot.
Oh.
Raise that a foot if you had to, but the floodway is very different.
I
So we've
see.
got straightforward money with. We'd have to make some concessions in the floodway.
Yeah.
Circular around one is outside.
I see.
So we're looking at 2 different bridges.
Okay. We have full confidence in you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience. Thank you for, hi, Mr. Lynch. Thank you for coming. Okay. We're gonna go to our next item on the agenda, which is, because I did go a little bit out of order here, we're gonna go to the cannabis.
Our audience.
Please.
You guys don't want to stay?
I guess not. So the next item on the agenda is the cannabis dispensary local law, secret resolution. So Greg had, sent a memo to the board on that. Can you speak a little louder, Greg? I'm sorry. Or maybe come over here, yeah, because there's still people here.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
I'm recommending that the board adopt a negative declaration for the secret, proposed secret law.
Okay,
Resolution would authorize the mayor to sign such a negative declaration.
all right, so,
We're at the point where we're doing the change on this law.
okay,
We're waiting for the plan to respond,
okay,
and then we can go from there.
and what are you doing there?
Evidently, the board hasn't got my memo.
No,
No.
no. Well,
Responded.
oh,
Responded.
Ask and you shall receive, right?
Oh.
Okay. It says that the planning, this is a referral of a local law to amend the village of Fishkill zoning code, rules and regulation from Hans and the Fishkill Planning Board. If the planning board submits the following recommendations to the village board for consideration. The local law should incorporate a grandfathering provision exempting existing cannabis uses from the requirement to apply to this planning board for a special permit. Consistent with other retail and commercial uses, cannabis establishments should be permitted as a special use permit in all commercial zoning districts. The local law shall provide clarification on whether the separation distances between cannabis businesses extends across municipal boundaries. So this memo serves as the official report of the village planning board, as required by zoning law. Okay, so maybe we'll give this to Greg for his, okay. Give a copy to Greg.
All commercial, so they're recommending, they want all commercial?
so so the discussion, one was discussion about the boundaries, but I think
Yeah,
you
I
sent an
did. I
email
have
on
the
that.
answer to that.
Yep,
correct.
and then they wanted it to all commercial districts. And then they wanted to grandfather the existing one that came in prior to this law, obviously. So the one that's, but we don't know, so you were gonna look, Nick, of where they were as far, there was also a conversation with the planning board, depending if they hadn't started anything or if they're like ready to open up.
They have
So
a
we're,
building permit at this point.
but how far along are they?
Probably at about 60% completion construction.
So, all right, so
That makes
They're
sense.
not expired, their site plan inspections.
now we don't have to, this is discretionary. Yeah. So those were the three, I think the three big inputs from the planning board.
Okay, well,
I think there needs to be some conversation.
right, well, I'd like to, I think we should do the resolution for this first, the neg deck, right?
For the secret.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll
So-
wait for Pam to come back.
But if we do this, we're on a time clock. If we do the neg deck, are we on a time clock? No,
Discussing those other things.
We can take our time as far as revising the draft local law
Mhm,
to incorporate, if the board so desires,
mhm.
these changes. And then when we have a final draft, then we can set the public hearing
Hmm.
for on the final draft.
Okay.
And refer to the Dutchess County Planning Board.
there's no 60 days.
Yeah.
No, okay.
No.
So, yeah, I think I'm good with doing this resolution tonight.
Yeah, and then we'll, right, that's how I feel.
Correct.
We should do this in two phases.
And then we should talk about,
Right.
next, yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, I think we're all,
I'm just gonna wait for Pam to get.
yeah, so the email you sent.
Right, so that's already been resolved, basically.
Yeah.
So then I will entertain a resolution for the negative declaration for the seeker. For this cannabis local law.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're gonna do this in phases, and this is March 3rd. And I signed it, and I'm giving it to you. Okay, thank you. So, okay, now we have this, to digest. Okay, so I think, would you like to maybe continue the conversation at the next meeting regarding this? Have some time to go through
Oh, the
it?
can, oh, yes, yeah.
Do that,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I think maybe,
Number 3 is fairly firm, though, that distance is, defined as, doorway to doorway of the business. It has nothing to do
With town
within
lines.
the municipality, correct?
right,
So
I had
that's,
thought that as
yeah.
well, so that's a non-issue.
that's a non-issue, correct?
What is the number on that? Doorway to doorway,
But it's 1,000.
square feet,
Well,
No, linear.
linear feet.
Linear feet, yeah. But that's already been clarified for us.
Yeah, I'm just writing.
So yeah, we're good there. Oh, yeah, and then we had said that we wanted it to be a special use permit. That was one of the,
correct.
yeah, so, okay.
But they wanted, we had it to
Be in a specific,
one, yeah, I think one district. They
Right,
wanted to
correct.
open it up.
right, correct.
We got it in PI.
Okay, so we can, everybody take a look.
I don't want.
We'll discuss this again as we move forward with this, okay? So we'll move that, and then the next thing on the agenda was a zoning change request for 18 Church Street. Oh, hello.
Good evening. I'm Steve Whalen of Whalen Architecture. I'm representing the owners of 18 Church Street. So our original proposal was to renovate the existing building that's on the property. We put in a submittal to the planning board, and because the property is located in the GB2 zone, multifamily is not allowed. The owner does not wish to bring back in another commercial business, because that was formerly, I think it was, at one point, it was a pet shop. It was a glass store.
It
but-
was a plate glass store for like
That's what it
30
was.
years.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it very briefly was a pet shop.
So right now, it's currently vacant. So the owner, she wants to bring in 2, possibly 3 apartment units.
How big is this building?
It's,
Pretty small.
it is, but we've got very tall ceilings in there. So our proposal is not to increase the footprint of the building, but to actually renovate it. So we're gonna start off, if we can comfortably get 2 in there. We might look into getting 3. But in order to do this, the property needs to be rezoned, and we were requesting that it be rezoned to the R50 zone.
Is the White House on the same property?
It is, there is an existing single-family residence on the property in addition to this building.
But
So
that
you-
faces Academy Street, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes.
Okay, and that's zoned in the, so I'm looking at the map, the VCBD.
No, the house is still zoned in the GB2.
Is in the commercial, because you can't split you can't do the district in it, right?
Right, if you look at this map, that still sits in the GB2.
I've got it enlarged.
Is it, so the house,
That is a single family home?
Family rental.
Mhm,
so it's in the commercial district,
right,
but it's pre-existing.
Yes.
And it faces does not face Church Street, it
No.
faces Academy.
The face is
Right,
a cat.
Right.
Right. But the commercial building on the property does face Church Street.
Correct.
Yes.
I don't know if you wanted to see the enlarged, it's just that one piece of property that's GB2. I mean, it is surrounded by, VCBD and also R50, so. And multifamily is allowed in R50,
Mhm.
so that's why we put in the request. And
So tell me the square footage of this building?
so the ground floor, I believe it's about 1,500 square feet, and then the second floor, right now,
It's
it's
unfinished.
unfinished,
Yeah.
it's just an attic.
Uh-huh.
So our proposal was actually to lower that ceiling so that the second floor becomes usable.
Mhm.
Or possibly, we haven't like really gotten into the building yet to start to like dissect it just to see what kind of condition it's in. If need be, we were thinking about possibly removing the roof and then building up from there, but not building out.
Wow.
So it's not being knocked down. The White
not being
House-
knocked
The
down.
White House is staying as is.
Yes.
Correct.
On the corner.
Mhm.
Is it, on this, is it also just one building or is it two buildings?
It's one building with two different roofs on it.
So.
You want, I can show you pictures of
It
it.
forms like an L, right?
Oh, no, it's a rectangle,
So.
but there's one section that's higher than the
So
other.
this section back here, what is this?
Yeah, that's single story in the back. You want to see, I've got more current pictures of it.
Yeah. Please, sorry. Like this is part of the building?
Yeah, that corner, and it looks like it's not a building, is where it says 48.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's still part of the building.
They just had a different roof.
Yeah, it's just a different roof.
but it forms an L.
No,
No,
no.
you're seeing the shadow.
It's a shadow.
Trustee? There's a shadow roof on one side. Here's it's the shot.
This is not a building?
Yeah, this is all one.
That's
This is
the middle.
church. This is
Yeah.
one building right here.
Oh, this is.
Yes,
That's
part
the
of it.
shadow of
Yeah.
that. All right. I thought it was,
So
open.
you're gonna have one unit downstairs and two upstairs.
So, yeah, I got the plan you made well.
I got it going.
That's actually what we're thinking about, make it look like.
Keep with the historic colors.
I would hope so.
So,
Yeah, absolutely, not the red.
not the red, but we're thinking about
Barn
like a
red.
tannish kind of beige color, go with a metal roof. More in keeping with like a barn style look.
Mayor, these are the,
Mhm.
the apartments. Or the square footage.
So these were the proposed layouts, the 1 story section in the back, that would be its own unit, that would be a studio unit. This would also be a studio unit.
What's the measurement here? So this is 32, what's this?
This is just over 14.
Takes a village to.
Does it? And what's going on
So
with
that's
the
a
parking lot?
448 square foot apartment.
This one,
Yeah,
Mayor?
So
it's
it's-
kind of small.
I thought we had a minimum.
Yeah, I
for
would think we
studios
do.
of
And do
4
we,
bedrooms.
do we allow Nick, Building Inspector Nick,
Yeah.
residential on the first floor?
There we do, yes.
There, well, it depends on what we rezone it to.
If that is zoned as a
R50,
R50, then residential is allowed on the first.
and
On
the
the
only
first
way to
floor.
get 3 units in would for it to be an R50, right?
Any way to get additional residential units on this property would be either an R50 or to go to GB2, but then you would only render 1 unit in the back building.
It's already GB2.
I'm sorry, VCBD, sorry. You're
Got it.
also in the historic overlay.
Mhm.
At the planning board, there was a discussion that there was some type of letter from our attorneys that said they could, was that ever resolved?
The applicant has not located the alleged letter, but did provide us with copies of the code which confirmed what we.
What you stated?
Well, I would like to hear from our planner about this, about looking at that district and,
My concern is if it goes to R50 and then that makes the potential for that project to be something bigger down the line, adding on, expanding. And then what's to stop people across the street in GB2, Lucille's Flower Shop or Pecori Law saying, hey, I want to be.
Yep, so that was part of the conversation that, and I don't know all the long history of this, but it was kind of a hodgepodge over there, right? So it was one thing throughout the years, then it was something else, and then as development and Route 9. So it was kind of talked about to look at not this, just this, but also across the street, right? So
Right.
to look at it
In its entirety.
in its entirety.
Correct.
But I think that's where
I think
we need
that's what-
Sarah to help us look
Yeah,
at it.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would think that we should have Sarah Brown take a look at, this corridor for us and see what we.
And if I could just expand on like what you were talking or asking about this property expanding, by the time we get our required parking spaces in here and with the existing residence that's on the front on Academy Street, we're out of room. We couldn't go 1 inch any direction. So it's like we are land banked by
And that's my
the
only
building
concern
as it is
is
right now.
It is fairly on the road. It is right on the road, that building.
That's right.
Pretty tight.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to go any bigger. And the owner, she's even said, if we have to go down to 2 units, that'll be more, like in keeping with like the square footage requirements.
Right.
She could do that as well.
Yeah, it would be nice to clean up that area, you know?
Oh, agree.
It's a matter of what.
And she
what
definitely
that
wants
would
to
be.
clean the
Right.
building up.
Right. So, we'll consult with our planner
Okay,
and have her give us some input. And then, we'll get back.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. Any other questions for him? No? Okay. All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, okay, zoning. Okay. Greg. We're gonna talk now, the next item on the agenda is the resolution to create some new general ledger accounts. And this was some suggestions out of our audit. They always make some recommendations and we like to be in compliance with them. One of the things also that we, wanted to take care of here too was a recreation account for the, parks and recreation fees. So we want to, set up a separate line item for that. And if you open up on the back of the front page is the line items that we want to add. And so if anybody has any questions, Stephanie is here working.
You sent an email earlier, didn't she?
Yeah.
In regards.
Yes, with about the 2 different. That was about accounts though. I think that's.
Yes.
Right, okay, so that I might be getting ahead of myself here. The rec fees, I think that was like the last item on the agenda about the New York class and everything.
That's still pretty good. New York,
Oh,
Class,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
still very profitable. Yeah.
But this would be a resolution to create these new ledger items. So I'll entertain a motion to create these new ledger items, to be for our next budget.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. I'll do that. Okay, and then, this is for the water supply.
Well, before we move on to the water supply, I'd just like to mention that there should be a second resolution. I don't know whether it's attached to the one that you're just reading,
Yeah.
whereby the village establishes the parks and recreations.
Right, I thought that was the
Yeah.
last one on the agenda, or am I mistaken?
Well, yeah, you're right. Yes, Mayor. I put them both together.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
that's okay, so just say that. So the next item on the agenda was for the increased project cost for the water supply system improvement project. And so that's what we have here from bond council, correct?
That is correct. And the good news is that it's not going to involve the village borrowing any additional funds. The additional money for this project is going to come from the New York State EFC grant.
Okay.
So that is also incorporated into the resolution.
Thank you. So does anybody have any questions on that? We are just making an amendment to the original bond resolution. And this is for the water project. Okay, so I will entertain a resolution for the increase in the project cost for the water supply system improvement project.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And then, so this was the resolution for the, rec fees.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we wanted to, authorize a new ledger account and a new bank account for the establishment of a restricted account for the purpose of holding all parks and recreation fees received by the village. So, the purpose of such account shall be a restricted investment account exclusively used for park, playground, or other recreational purposes, including the acquisition of property. So, we did just recently receive a large, rec fee for a project. We, want to take our time and figure, what the best use of those funds would be for the village. But while we're doing that, we would like to invest that money, so that it makes the most interest possible for the residents.
And Sarah Stephanie proposed setting up an account where the village could earn approximately 4%
Right.
interest,
Yes,
which the board.
so, New York class,
Class.
and we have, invested with them before. I have met with them and I know several of the other municipalities, and it's a specific fund that's just for municipalities or school districts. And, the interest is really, really good. The money can be taken out at any time. There's no penalties, there's no fees. And we've used them before and we've done quite well for the village. I know the city of Beacon has broken the $1 million mark. Yeah, interest, so. Yeah, so we'd like to invest money in there and let it grow for us and, figure out what we're gonna do with it. So we have a resolution here. So whereas the village treasurer has requested that the board of trustees authorize a new general ledger accounts and a new bank account for the establishment of restricted account for the purpose of holding all parks and recreation fees received by the village. Now therefore, the village board of trustees authorizes the village treasurer to open a restricted account for recreation fees received by the village. The purpose of such account shall be for restricted investment account exclusively for park, playground, or other recreational purposes, including the acquisition of property. So I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Do we have to,
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead,
No,
bud.
no, go on.
do we have to decide on the account it's going to now, to the bank it's going to now? Before finalizing this? She gave us two options in that email. I think we know where
Yes.
we're going.
Yeah.
Should that be stated now?
The board could decide that tonight.
Okay. So,
Separate vote or part of this?
yeah, separate.
So actually, Greg, my question, so the way this says restricted investment account exclusively for park, playground, other recreational purposes. They had including acquisition of property, but on the first part, do we need to put in there improvements? Or is that implied? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we have a motion, a second discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And then, we did,
Do we need a motion for
Wait,
the?
For the bank class?
I was just gonna bring that up.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were, oh, I thought we had
So
something else.
that was the only other thing, right?
Yes.
So, we had, it was, M&T, I believe.
NTB, I think.
Okay, and, okay,
NTB.
NBT.
No, N, she said the letter N, as in Nancy, NTB is what she.
Okay,
We're-
that's the bank that we generally use. And that we had their interest rates and we also had the interest rates from, New York class.
Correct.
So, I will entertain a motion to invest these funds with the New York class.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So this isn't on the agenda, but the only other thing we had was the
Yes, the-
fire truck.
The pumper, yeah. You guys have the contract in front of you. I know you only had it a couple of days, so if you wanna digest it until the next meeting, that's fine. It's about 18 to 24 months before the chassis will be delivered. That amount is $609,000, $609,237. That has to be given to Marion at delivery of the chassis, which again is about 18 to 24 months out. Once that is done, balance of 919,466 is due when the truck is being delivered. And that could be, the total is probably 36 to 38 months total out for the final truck to be finished. So first check of 609 is 18 to 24. Final number will probably be another year and a half post that.
Now, can I just ask, how much more was it? That we
He
waited?
said, let's see.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't
Second.
seem like a lot, but I
I
know
can give you that. Just bear with me
Yeah.
1 second.
I think it was in.
It's enough.
Yeah.
it is,
No?
yeah.
Um,
Oh, wow.
Well,
13. the
13,
price-
13.9 it went up, yeah.
13.
well, there's 2 jumps, I think.
Oh, and then six,
And then
oh,
that
yeah,
was the second.
Yeah, and I believe it was like another 16,
16.8, yeah.
yeah, on the other end. Yeah, 13,917 for the chassis and 16,800 for the final build out.
Okay.
About 30,000.
All right, so this, we have our contract. So do you guys want to hold off till the next meeting? Are you ready to?
You guys, why don't we hold off till the next meeting? You
I'm,
guys digest it, see if there's any
Well-
wording in there you don't like.
yeah, I think we're ready because if we
You don't wanna look at this, digest, see if there's any wording in there you're uncertain with?
I'm wondering if it would.
Because to be honest, I did ask him, I said, why isn't the amount in the contract when the chassis is delivered? He's
Okay.
just giving us a total amount. I'd like him to revise
Oh,
it, so
break it
each
down,
piece is
so,
broken
all right.
down.
That's good, okay.
All right, so we'll table this till the next meeting, and actually, at that meeting, the fire, department guys will be here, so that'll be.
And they
good
have a
too.
copy of this, I forwarded it
Oh,
to them.
good, okay,
So I'll ask them to hopefully give us some info prior to the meeting
okay.
that we can get into Jason's hand. Do you want me to request Jason Harris to be here? He is the middleman. He is the guy who's getting everything done. He is my point person.
Is
He
he
is the
local?
fire company's, he's the fire company's point person. He works for Uncle Sam Fire Apparatus. They are the guys that put the packages together.
Is he local enough now?
Valley Falls, New York is where Uncle Sam is, but he is readily available for us. So local or not, he can make his way here. I'll take that as a yes. I'll ask him to be here next meeting. Thank you.
Okay,
Let's just get all the details we
Okay.
can. It's a lot of money.
okay, it is a lot of money,
Okay.
that's, yeah. We should have him here and then the fire guys
Yes,
too.
he'll be here with them, so that'll be great.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Piggybacking off the fire department, I think you guys got my email. I was hoping
Yes.
to somehow get in touch with some of them if they wanted to be spotlighted, just kind of leading up to, I think the last week of April is some the recognition for the volunteer firefighters through FASNY. And I just thought with this purchase happening, it might be nice to profile our fire department members.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
3 or 4 at a time, and let the community see what our firemen do and, so get behind this whole idea. So
Yes,
maybe,
absolutely.
they don't have to, only if they want to.
Right.
I'd be happy to just get some, have them fill out a little form and
Yeah, like a little bio.
little bio, get a picture
Yeah.
and just kind of start sharing it on social
No,
media.
I think that would be wonderful. I
Yeah,
really
great
do.
idea. And
And I think anything like that always is so helpful, in just trying to garner new volunteers.
I agree, yeah, I just think it would be nice. So they don't have to, like I said, but he provided us the names and I'm happy to go and meet with them and at one of their meetings or whatever and take some pictures.
Yeah.
And just get some basic bio information and share it.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, thank you.
excellent.
Anything else?
No, good. I'd just like to announce that, my wife will be repping the village of Fishkill in Belgium this coming weekend.
What?
We are flying out on Thursday night. She was invited to brew at Brewery Huga, who does the Delirium brand of beers for
Oh my
International
goodness.
Women's Day. So
Wow.
March 8th, she will be brewing at the brewery.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
So we'll be hanging out there for the weekend and wearing our DBC Fishkill shirts.
Nice. Thank you, send pictures.
Yeah, absolutely,
That's so great,
absolutely.
thank you. Does anybody from the audience have anything or comments or? Sure.
So there's some information on the website about the upcoming election.
Why don't you come up to the mic?
So I'm curious about the election and the dates and everything. I know that the county was very not involved, even though they were
They're really
supposed to be.
not supposed to be.
So I'm wondering if maybe the board would consider an election committee so that if there is confusion, if dates need to be, I don't know what the dates might be for getting your petitions in, collecting the petitions. I know that there was an announcement, I think, that you can pick up a petition already. I think the date has come. But I'm just curious if there's anything, you can pick up the petition now. Right? Okay. Right, so I actually just went on my phone. I think it's because it's in a Word document, like on your phone, like on my computer, I can see it, but on my phone, I can't download that public notice. I think because it's in a Word document, not in PDF. I mean, that's not here nor there, but I'm just curious if the board has considered doing an election committee to answer questions if something comes up. I know that there was some confusion last year.
Well, we haven't, but we can certainly talk about it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, village elections are a little bit different than the regular.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of information available through NICOM as well.
So people should go to NICOM
I mean, that's.
for the dates and stuff.
Well, we'll be putting the dates on
Posted
the
out front.
website.
Okay.
It should be posted on the board. It should be on our
Yeah,
website.
it will.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Like the election date and I don't even think.
I mean, it's a pretty simple process.
Yeah. I mean, I could put something out there saying when the nominating petitions.
Like when they're due or,
Yeah.
what the limitations are and all of that. That would be helpful. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Anybody else? Adjourn?
Second?
Any discussion?
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right.